I've learned that success is not the amount of money that you have in the bank or your net worth. Success is the journey and the person that you become. And that's why that's why the phrase is, you have to become successful.
I am Christina Suter, and this is the Real Estate Breakthrough Show, where we talk about the reality of real estate, the mindset you need in order to face the reality of what it is, and tips and tricks to get you moving forward in investing. I am your host, Christina Suter. So good to have you here today. I have a brand new guest who's brand new to me and brand new to you. And I'm super excited to hear his background, what it is that he does, and how it is that he is an expert in his particular area. I'm going to read his bio, and then I'm going to let him take us away. So let me, hold on a second. I'm going to share my screen for those of you who are on YouTube and Roku TV. So Mr. I called you a doctor. Are you a doctor?
I'm a doctor of BS.
Yeah, I could probably take that title on too. Now, how do I say your last name correctly? Mosery?
Mosery, yes.
Mosery. Mr. Mosery is co-founder and CEO of Cornerstone Investment Partners, LLC. He's been involved in real estate for the past 20 years and currently owns many properties nationally and nationwide. While living in New York, Mr. Mosery owned a restoration and renovation company and applied his knowledge in the construction field, working on numerous single-family homes, multifamily commercial properties up to 300 units. Since moving to South Florida in 2009, Mr. Mosery became a licensed real estate professional and is extensively involved in the South Florida market. He owns one of the first sole commercial RE/MAX franchises in South Florida. Congratulations. And his team heads up the multifamily division. Mr. Mosery's firsthand knowledge of spotting emerging markets has helped Cornerstone position itself correctly to take advantage of the growing economy and has been very crucial to the success of Cornerstone. Mr. Mosery and his team have created systems to be able to chart a marketing progression and to pinpoint the best time to exit. That I want to know a lot about, especially in this current market. So just so you know, I'm warning you, I'm going to dig into that because we've got COVID, we've got inflation, we have an incredible amount of money floating in the United States system. Let's have a conversation about that. Mr. Mosery has had the privilege of working with some of the real estate industry's best on residential as well as commercial property. His background ranges from managing commercial assets, recognizing emerging markets, property management, syndication, mentoring, and advanced creative financing techniques. And I'm excited to have you here because I feel like I want to show people also your website as well. So while you're talking about, okay, now I've read the bio. Okay, tell us the truth. So tell us about who you are above and beyond the bio, and what it is that you love about real estate, what it is that you in Cornerstone really does.
Sounds good. So I'm a first generation American. I was born and raised in New York City. And, in my house, we spoke two languages, English and bad English. And that's how I grew up. Speaking to my parents who basically, didn't know any English and they were learning from TV in the street. So, it was very interesting to try to figure out what they were telling me all the time. And, but one thing that I did understand was when my parents, would tell me that there are two types of people in this world, those that pay rent and those that collect. And son, you always want to collect rent.
Nice.
You never want to pay. And I remember when I came back from Israel, when I was 18, I went and I joined the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces. And then when I came back, I ended up living at my parents' place for a while until I was able to get situated on my own. And I remember one night, here I am after the military. I'm an adult, or at least I thought I was an adult. And my father comes up to me and, it's 11 o'clock at night. I'm getting ready to go out and party in New York City. And he goes, "Don't you think it's a little late? Shouldn't you go to sleep and get a job?" So at that moment, I realized it was time for me to get my own place. And I went and I rented an apartment, just like millions of people do in Manhattan. And that threw my dad for a big loop. He's like, "Didn't I ever teach you anything? You're paying rent. You might as well take money and throw it out the window. You're not building equity. You don't own it. It's nothing." So that's kind of the mentality and the headspace that I grew up in. My parents, my mother's a Holocaust survivor. My father never graduated. I think he graduated elementary school.
But maybe not a version of high school.
Definitely not high school.
Okay.
Definitely not high school. But he was living in Israel at the time when there was the independence of Israel was happening. There was a lot of building and construction, and the whole nation was building itself after World War II. And so he didn't have a lot of time for school, but he was very smart, very intelligent. You could run numbers in his head, and he could, do so many things. So they also told me that, the wealthiest person on the planet is someone who owns a piece of land free and clear. You can do with it whatever you want. No one could ever take it away from you. It's yours, and do with it what you want. So that was the mindset that we always, grew up in. Go out and do it for yourself. Don't wait for anyone to hand you anything. He wanted me to study law because he always said, lawyers, they can do anything they want.
Mm-hmm.
They know the law. Unfortunately, if you ever get a chance to look at my ass, I don't have an ass for law. That's why I'm standing right now.
It has to do with how much ass chewing you can put up with. What's that what you're saying?
It has to do with how much time you can sit on your ass and read a book and draw
okay, got it. Okay, very
do all
good.
that kind of stuff, right? That just wasn't for me.
You're skinny, mini, and athletic. I am so sorry that kept you from doing law. I apologize.
Well, in college, I did take business law. Good. And I studied law, and I found it intriguing, but it really wasn't for me. Okay. I never graduated college. I still have a couple of classes to finish to get my degree, but I never really understood what it was or why I had to go to college. And I didn't really know when I was younger what I wanted to do in life. I just didn't know. In my early 20s, I was working on Wall Street for a big stock brokerage company that doesn't exist anymore. I thought that's what I wanted to do. I was working with my brothers in retail. We had clothing stores in Manhattan and Soho, very high-end fashion. I thought that was going to be something that I wanted to do, and it wasn't. But throughout my history of doing different things, real estate was always in the background. I would always look at properties and I'd say, this would be a good place for this type of a project. This would be a good place for this type of project. And I also would walk down the streets of Manhattan and I would always look up and I go, how the hell do people have so much money that they can build or own these huge ass skyscrapers? Mm-hmm. Who has so much money? What are they doing that I don't know?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
What is
yes.
it that
I've asked myself the exact same question. Who the frick are these people? And what are they doing that I clearly haven't worked out yet?
Right. I want my name on a building. How do I get my name on top of a building? That's always been my goal. And, sadly, at the age of 25, my father passed away. He was ill, didn't take care of himself, and he passed away. And that kind of threw me for a downward spiral. I didn't know what life was about. I saw this man who was, my mentor, and my parents were always my mentors. And he worked his ass off providing for his family. He had a great life. He built a small empire for himself and for his children. But I didn't understand what life was about. I said, it can't be that you work your ass off until you're 65 and then die.
Right.
That's not, something just didn't sit right. So after he died, I went on a big party rampage, alcohol, drugs, everything that you can in Manhattan. I enjoyed it for a while, but there was this big gaping hole inside of me that it wasn't being filled. And one day I decided to pack up my bags. I left my apartment. I gave back my portfolio. I told my brothers I'm leaving. And I went back to Israel and I sat on the beach in Tel Aviv for a year, watched the sun go up and down, contemplated my belly button. And then a friend told me that he was going to India. I said, you know what? Sitting on a beach in Tel Aviv or a beach in India makes no difference. I'm going with you. And that led to my travels for about 6-7 years. I became a real big hippie. I had dreadlocks down below my ass. I had a goatee hanging down to here with beads and all that stuff. And I learned a lot on the spiritual side of life. I connected with my soul, with my spirit.
Important part of life
Absolutely.
is our spiritual journey, and connecting that to our physical journey in this life, in this lifetime.
Absolutely.
Is so much satisfaction and grace and success that comes out of being able to connect one's spiritual path to one's physical world path.
Absolutely.
My personal opinion.
No, absolutely. And what's cool is that you can use your spiritual path and the spiritual world or quantum physics, if you want to call it today,
Yes.
to manifest what you want in the material world.
Yeah.
Now, I knew that somehow when I was growing up, and I would say, you know, we're here for a reason. You know, there's a reason why you and I are talking today, you know, all these things. And I would always see things happening that I would say, you know, I don't know how it's going to happen, but this is what I want. And then a few years down the road, boom, it appeared. And I was like, wow, that's pretty awesome. But on my spiritual journey, I went deep inside myself. I learned about who I was. I didn't, you know, I didn't realize that I didn't know who I was until I realized I didn't know who I was and what I wanted and what you know, I was always taught to believe that I was a meat eater, for example, just as an example. I was taught that money is everything. You know, I remember till today, people that were very close to me growing up telling me, you know, when you get married, when money's out the door or out the window, love is right behind it. That was the kind of philosophy that I grew up in. And I said, well, that can't be right. That's just, it doesn't sound right. So I connected with myself. I traveled. I saw amazing things on this planet. I saw the most poverty-stricken people in the planet to some of the wealthiest people in the planet. And I spoke to all of these people, and, you know, a lot of the people that had nothing had sparkles in their eyes, when people that had what we consider everything were miserable. And I never understood that. And I kept digging into it and meditating and being one with myself and understanding and peeling back the onion of my personality and who I am and all the beliefs that I was told to believe. And I realized that a lot of the things that I was told aren't me. And I also realized that every thought that we've had, every idea that we have is not ours. It's embedded into us by our parents, our friends, our siblings, community, society, politics, TV, media, right? Everything is injected into us, right? Somebody else is programming our mainframe. And if we never come to terms with that or come to understand that what I think is not my own thoughts, you're going to live life what I call by default.
Yes.
Right.
And
default factory settings.
And I'm going to interrupt you again. I apologize. And to be able to learn that not only are those thoughts not yours, but you're capable of actually reprogramming the ones that you even programmed into yourself out of that.
Absolutely.
Just saying.
Absolutely. There's a great show. I don't know if you have the app. It's called Gaia.
No, I'll look it up.
Gaia, Gaia. And Dr. Joe Dispenza has a series on there called Rewired.
Okay.
I recommend everybody watching it.
Good.
He talks about exactly what we're talking right now, about our thoughts, about the cosmic field that's around us, how to rewire and reprogram yourself so that you can manifest anything you want. But what's funny is that I was taught all these things while sitting on mountains in India with babas and sadhus and gurus and whatnot, talking about the spiritual world. And here comes a guy like Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he brings it down scientifically. How your brain works when you meditate, what happens, what do you do? So it's amazing for someone who always says, oh, this energy, spiritual stuff is BS. That's great. Here's a guy who's talking to you scientifically, science, proving it by science. So, you know, I travel the world. I finally realized what life was all about, who I was, what I wanted in life. And during my travels, I met my current wife, my only wife, and we have 2 daughters now. And we settled in Boca Raton, Florida, right? Go figure, the spiritual guy ending up in Boca Raton, Florida.
Hey, I'm in Southern California after living on an ashram for 3 months in Canada, and then came in, and I'm driving over the hill, literally driving, like, drove across all the way across Canada. Lily was in one of those commune, like, grow your food, do your bit, and for 3 months. And then finally went, yeah, no, not for me, not that deep. I can't be truly that for the rest of my life. And so I started driving over the top of the hill in Van Nuys. People know what I'm talking about. They're Southern California. And I'm looking at the layer of smog that is covering Los Angeles. And I go, am I really going to choose to drive into that and live there? And I go, yeah, that's where my community is. That's where my heart is. That's exactly where I'm going to live, is this little hippie spiritual girl who's going to put her ass right inside Southern California. And that's where I'm going to participate. Absolutely. So there you are in Florida. Let's get back to you. Thank you for letting me hijack you again. So there you
Yeah.
are in Florida. Go ahead.
So, we were living in Israel at the time, and we decided to come to the US. And I told my wife, not New York and, anywhere else. I had friends that lived here. So we decided to move to Florida. And one of the reasons why we came back was because of the 08-09 crash.
Yes.
I was living in Israel. I had opened up the first raw vegan restaurant in Israel. And, we started doing that. I became I'm over 25 years a Reiki Master. I studied shiatsu, reflexology, naturopathic medicine. I've done all that. And when so we decided to move to Florida and to get back into real estate. Because as you know, I was living in New York. I was working, I had my renovation and construction company. I was doing that. We were buying real estate in New York and renovating those units and taking office buildings and turning them into, loft office spaces in Soho in Manhattan, changing residential units into commercial units. So I grew up in that space as well, right? I was the youngest of four boys. So I was always given the crappiest jobs. Go clean the toilets, go fix the water tower, go fix the, go underneath the elevator and fix the elevator, right? So go tear out those walls and build up the drywall. So I grew up in that and I knew how to do all that. So that came second nature to me. So when we moved to Florida, we had the idea of coming here, buying a house, living in it for a year, fixing it up, selling it, making some money, and then continuing on our merry way as traveling hippies. 12 years later, dreadlocks
You're
are
not
gone.
traveling anymore.
The goatee is gone, and here I am, right? But so I started flipping houses because that was the lowest hanging fruit, especially here in South Florida, right? Florida and Arizona are swing states. They swing high, they swing low, they swing fast. So I was buying single family homes for $16,000, concrete block, 3-bedroom, 2-bath homes, putting $5,000 into it just to clean it up, not even to renovate, and flipping them. I was, flipping 5-10 houses a month. Then I was renovating them and then flipping those houses and making $100,000 profit on those. But eventually I saw the end.
Okay.
Right?
Tell me.
It's like with chess. Right? You got to look 20 to 25 moves ahead so that you can beat your opponent. Now, who are my opponents? My opponents were all of the hairdressers and all of the guys working at Trader Joe's and everybody else that's starting to tell me, hey, guess what? I just bought a house and I'm going to flip it. Wait a minute, right? What's going on here, right? And I remember the day that I decided that, okay, flipping was done is when I put an offer. This was, I would say 2014, 15.
15? Okay, yeah, okay. I remember, 2015, things started flattening out in 2015.
Right.
And yes, everybody was jumping back in again. Oh, we're recovered. Oh, yeah, we're here. I remember,
people are bidding way over asking price for houses and whatnot. And I remember I went to look at a house that was half burnt. Half of the house was completely burnt. It was gone. It was missing. So you're looking at a house, only half of it is there. That half is charred. The other half is just gone. I put an offer of $100,000. They wanted 90. I said, I'll give you 100 because I knew that this house was going to be way more valuable once it was fixed up and rebuilt and whatnot. And people were bidding at $150,000, $200,000. And that's when I said, okay, it's time for me to go. Now, during that time, while I was flipping houses, I was studying and learning multifamily properties because I was always taught there's two types of people in this world.
Renters.
Those that
get
pay and those that collect.
That's right.
And I want to collect. I'm a very lazy kind of guy, right? I want to do something once and I want it to feed me forever, right?
Yeah.
I'm not the kind of guy to sit in an office for 30 years and build somebody else's empire. I tried that, didn't work.
Yeah.
Right. And I never got fired. I left on my own. I was like, it's just not for me. I'm done. And not having a college background, college degree, many people didn't want to hire me for those big executive offices and whatnot. So I had to figure things out on my own. And being new to Florida, I didn't have a network of people. I didn't know the areas. I've been out of the country for 15 years at this point already. So everything that I knew about the US has changed, right? 15 years is a long time to be out. So I had a huge learning curve that I had to flatten really quickly. I had to gain a lot of people in my network. I had to know what was going on, what the areas are of the country that are best to invest in. So in 2010, I met my business partner in multifamily, and we started growing together. Actually, 2009, when I just moved here, but we didn't do anything for a year because I was busy flipping houses. I wasn't going to stop doing that because it would be stupid. It was the lowest hanging fruit for me to do it, and it was easy. It was simple. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to do it. You just got to know your numbers. You got to know your market. And you know your numbers. And then we started doing multifamily on the side. We bought a duplex, and then we flipped a 27 unit property up by Orlando, and we started doing things and moving along. And we started getting into the multifamily business because I said to myself, what can I do to generate passive income? That was my goal. I had 2 little kids at home, a 3-year-old and an infant. I got a wife. Here I am now, this hippie guy trying to, not trying, but here's this hippie guy in real estate. How do I go out and be the example for my daughters of what a successful person, man should be, a husband? So I dove into it and I studied everything I could. I went to all the conferences and all the areas and everything. And one step at a time, 1 foot forward, we take 1 step forward and we take 10 steps backwards because, can I say this whole on your show? Is that okay?
Probably not. But that's okay. They'll just bleep it out. It doesn't matter.
But,
Go ahead.
So
it's all good.
It's all good. So, sometimes you have to take 10 steps backwards and repivot and move forward again.
Focus. Yeah.
So we went and we started, and then we got involved in a 150 unit Class A property, then a 224, then 240, then 172. And it just started snowballing and rolling and rolling and rolling. And then we sold our properties that we bought and we came full circle. And it's been an incredible ride. And I've learned a lot from it. I've learned that success is not the amount of money that you have in the bank or your net worth. Success is the journey and the person that you become. And that's why the phrase is, you have to become successful.
It is. Yes. No, it's beautifully said. It is a becoming, and people do seem to be focused on the end result of being successful, the financial freedom on that side. That's people's content. We talk about how we're going to talk about financial freedom later in the show, right? And I always like to talk about it. One of my favorite examples is I have this client who literally has a 1-bedroom apartment that's like 5 blocks from the beach. She lives in the living room and she rents the bedroom Airbnb, and she is financially free. She is financially successful. She maybe earns like $2,500 to $3,000 a month. She's managed to accumulate a little bit of cash. And so she actually has a passive investment outside of her Airbnb. And she's like, I think she lives in Lily, like $3,000 a month. And she's like, I don't have to work. I don't have to go anywhere. I can sleep in, I can meditate. She also meditates, believes in the same, circle of beliefs that I have. And she's like, I am financially free. I don't need $3 million to get financially free. I have become financially free. And part of it is the process, not this end goal, the joy of, like, can you find joy in living a day? That's what people are waiting for. They're waiting for the permission to have joy to live their day. I don't want to wait for the permission. I don't have to wait for the permission. I can create it inside of myself through getting free, like what you described, free from the messages, free from the pain, free from the sense of, I'm not good enough because somebody said so. I'm not good enough because my brother teased me when I was 5. I'm not good enough because I'm still proving my parents wrong. It's like, oh, there's so much more freedom available to you if you simply choose the freedom. And that's not even necessarily financial.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
But financial can follow. You don't have to ignore financials. Let's not get too cray here, as my mentor likes to say.
You can't.
You don't ignore financial. You're not sitting there going, oh, I'm just going to disappear out of society altogether, and that's how I get my freedom. It's like, no, you don't have to. You can totally embrace the financial, embrace the freedom, embrace the growth. Right. Take it away.
It's the holistic version, right? Yeah. It's a whole. You have to look at it as an entire package. If you just work on your spirituality and you neglect the physical, then you can get sick and die. And then what good is the spirituality? If you're just focusing on the physical and the material, then you lose your soul. And then what's it all worth? So you have to combine the two together and work them in harmony and unison and find out, why is it that I'm doing what I'm doing? It's okay to have money. It's okay to make millions. It's okay to make billions, but you have to, there's no but. It's okay to do that. You have to combine both together. You have to work on your spiritual side, because if you want to make a lot of money and you want to be happy doing it, you have to find out what is your reason, what is your purpose on this planet, and then run with it. And a lot of times people say, well, I'm really passionate about dogs. Well, you know what? Go out and be passionate about dogs and find your niche with dogs. And guess what? You'll make a ton of money with dogs, because that's your passion and people feel that. That's what people buy, right? They buy you and your passion and your drive and your dedication and your motivation and your, the smile that you have on your face and the focus that you have. Whatever you're working on, that's the byproduct. That's the end, right? It hit me big time when I was in India, and my entire life I've always wanted to ski the Himalayan mountains. Okay. Big thing of mine. Okay. And then one day I found myself on a bus going to the mountains of India. And it didn't connect, there's not a lot going on here. So it didn't connect that the mountains in India were the Himalayan mountains. So here I am on a bus for 18 hours from where I was all the way up to the mountains. And I wake up and I'm looking outside and you see these incredible mountains. And I go to the guy who's sleeping on my shoulder. I'm like, hey, Baba, what's the name of these mountains? And he's like, really? You don't know? These are the Himalayan mountains. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. Right. I'm like, wow, here I am. Holy cow. And then I went and the village that I stayed at, there were guys that rented skis and took you up to the mountain so you can go skiing. I said, oh, wow. Can't believe it. I'm actually fulfilling this. And I didn't know how or when it was going to happen, but here it is in front of me. And as I'm on top of that mountain with my skis on, and I'm looking at this beautiful mountain range, and I'm like, wow, I did it. I'm here. I looked left, I looked right. I'm like, okay, now what?
Okay, there's my moment.
Pictures.
Took your pictures.
Took my pictures, skied down, skied back up. Well, it was great. But now what do I do?
Now what do I do? There's more. There's more.
I hit my goal. I reached my goal. And then I realized that it wasn't the goal that was there the whole time, right? Yes, I needed to have that point in time and space to say that's where I want to go. But what I realized was, from the time that I'd set that goal till the time that I achieved it, the journey that I went on, my father passing away, leaving my family in New York, going to Israel, crying, beating myself up, not knowing who I was, going through the ashrams, meeting people, partying, enjoying flavors and sights and sounds and incredible experiences that had led me to where I was. And then I looked back and I said, I'm not the same person that left New York City a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. I said, I'm a completely different person. And that's when I realized that success is not the destination, but it's the journey. It's the people you meet along the way, the experiences you have. And, I remember when I gave the eulogy for my father, I said the same thing. I said, look, we can't be sad because he's not here. What we have to do is we have to look at the life that this person lived, where he grew up, the scenario and the life that he had when he was a child, a hardship, and look at the journey that his life took and what he did, all the wars that he was involved in, He was the lieutenant commander for the Northern Division of Israel. He was shot 10 times. He came to a country that he didn't know the language. He didn't have an education, and he built several companies on his own. He took care of his family. He fed them. He traveled. He gave them everything that they needed. Right? Look at that. Look at the journey. And that's what we have to understand. A lot of people focus on, I want the money. I want the money. I want the money. And, if you put on the blinders like a horse, that's what you're going to see. And that's what you become. You become a horse's ass because that's all you're looking at, right? You're looking at the horse's, you're looking at the horse's ass right in front of you. And that's the only thing you see.
It's the only thing you see.
You gotta look
and you
right,
do, and you
become
a horse's ass. They really do. You can see it. Like, I mean, it's been my experience when I run into people where it's like, it's all about the money. I'm like, yeah, I get what interaction I'm going to have with you. And I understand where you're going to be coming from.
When I was going to all these different real estate conferences, and here I am, I'm wearing a nice Italian suit and I got my dreadlocks down to my ass. And this guy comes up to me and goes, do you actually think and believe that people are going to invest with you with that hair?
Yeah.
I looked at him. I said, well, first of all, double-breasted suits were out in the 80s. So let's start with that. And I said, if you don't want to invest with me because of my hair, guess what? I don't want you in my investment.
Yeah, I don't want you to invest my. Yeah,
I don't want you in my. That's going to stop you. So be it. So be it. Then you don't belong anywhere near me. And that's kind of that's the mentality that I live by. And so that's been the journey, and it's been an incredible run.
Thank
you. Have your ups and downs, and but it's an awesome ride.
I asked for the truth. And you gave me the truth. And I love that. Thank you. You completely stepped into the challenge of like, okay, lady, take off the bio, take off the suit, take off the dreadlocks even. Let's just talk about like the reality of what it means to choose to be oneself, authentic and on purpose, spiritually connected or not, but at least authentic and on purpose in being able to implement one's life to a point of success where living life is the success. Not the goal. Because like you said, you can stand on the top of the Himalayan mountains, or you can own one of those big ass buildings in downtown LA or downtown Florida or wherever it was that New York, right, where you were. And that's still not going to bring you joy. It's not going to bring you the relief that you're looking for. The sense of satisfaction and contentment isn't found in money. No, but it is found.
It's funny.
Go ahead.
It's funny. I'm sorry, but Dr. Joe Dispenza in that show Rewired, he talks about how we're all living in disease, right? And if you break out the word disease, it's dis-ease. We're living out of harmony. And how can we bring back our bodies into homeostasis and harmony is by increasing the love factor, okay?
Yes.
By increasing your heart energy, so that it expands and it connects into the kundalini, which is your brain stem that goes into the hypothalamus and into the pineal. And then you create this energy field around you. And that energy field starts to release certain chemicals in your body that heals your body. So if we don't love ourselves, if we don't love what we do, if we don't have self-love and self-appreciation and really connect to ourselves and to the greater energy source, and you can call it whatever you want, God, a head of lettuce, I don't care what it is, right?
Right.
But if you connect, scientifically speaking, if you connect into that quantum field of energy, your body now starts to do things that scientifically we didn't know until recently, that it secretes certain hormones, the serotonin, the melatonin. It starts healing your body. And through that self-love, through the meditation, through all of that, we can then heal ourselves, right? And then we can really go out into the world. And, in Judaism, we have this thing called tikkun olam. It means repairing of the world, where every Jew is responsible for doing some part to repair the world. But how can you repair the world if you're not repaired yourself? If you're not fixed,
it's very hard.
If you're not happy, right?
Yeah.
So it all, and I'm touching my heart because, we all talk about ourselves, and this is where we talk about, right? So we have to come from here so that we can go out there and really do incredible things with our lives. And if money is your journey, then so be it. But love it and love yourself.
Love yourself. I hate to transition off this subject because it's one of my passions, as obviously it's one of yours as well. And let's talk about maybe, if we can, Cornerstone Investment Partners, and talk about how you feel. You can either talk about how you feel guided in how you run Cornerstone, or you can talk about how you guys truly make a difference and be able to help other investors be able to do better in their world. You pick your topic and go with it.
Sure. So, we started Cornerstone for the basic reason of buying multifamily, right? And if you look in my website, you'll see what our vision is, right? And if you want, you can put it up and, for
I'm
people
going to put it, right now I've got the team, but I can absolutely find the vision. So keep talking.
Go to About Us. I think it's in there.
Right here.
Yes.
There you go.
Right. So what's the first sentence? Our mission is to enrich the lives of the people we touch. Our people. And who's our people? It's our investors, the residents, our employees, our peers in the industry. We want people to look at us and say, that's the way to do things, right? Whether it be by, so I have a lot of thoughts in my head. I'm trying to line them up. We do business fair and square. Okay. I tell people, I said, listen, yeah, I owe you the money, right? In business, you owe people money, they owe you, and it's back and forth. I'll give you an example. We sold a property, and I was having an issue with one of my contractors. His subcontractor put a lien on the property for an exuberant amount of money, way more than the actual project cost. And I called him up and I said, what's going on? He goes, yeah, well, I paid him, but you owe me X amount of money. And I said, listen, I'll call him John. I said, John, we've been working together for 2 years already. Have I screwed you out of a dime? He goes, you know what? You haven't. I said, that's how we do business. I said, now I need you to afford me that same trust right now and move us along and remove the lien, because we're closing in 2 weeks on the property, right? It's going to screw everybody up, and it's going to screw you up as well, because you're not going to get your money.
Yeah.
You're not going to get your money. So it's in your best interest to help me take care of my issues, just the way I've helped you. And I've given you every single dime that I've promised you. And that's kind of, karma, right? What goes around comes around. Yeah. Whatever you put out will come back to you. And I'm, as we just spent the last half hour talking about that, right? These are the universal laws. It's not my law. It's not your law. This is the way the quantum field works.
Right. You can also cause it very simple cause and effect, which has been, studied many, many times, whether it's in physics or whether it's in spirituality.
Right. Exactly. So whatever we put out there, we're going to get back. So we treat people fairly. We treat our residents with the utmost respect and care, because for us, it's a business, but for them, it's their home. And I remember when I was a tenant back years ago, don't tell anybody, right? I had landlords that didn't give two things about us, right?
Yes, right?
About me as a tenant. That was just a number in their portfolio. Yeah. And it sits in somebody's mind, especially if you're a tenant or a resident in a property, that you're being treated that way. It doesn't give good vibes. It doesn't give good energy. It doesn't allow for repairing of the world in any way that you want. Mm-hmm. So that's how we go out into the world first and foremost. We're going to be fair. Doesn't mean that we're not going to be hard, and we're going to negotiate hard, and we're going to be strict on what we want and get what we want.
And using accountability.
Absolutely. But I'm not going to cheat you. I'm not going to steal from you. I'm not going to do something that's going to harm you just for the sake of that, right? I'm going out there with the best intentions of doing things the right way. And that, it leads to our investors. How do we protect our investors' capital? By making sure our residents have an incredible place to live. Mm-hmm. That's how we protect their money, right? A lot of times we'll get our investors on our quarterly calls and like, well, how come you didn't distribute all the funds? And I said, I appreciate that you want your money. However, if I cashed out the capital account and it's zero, and we have a tenant that has something or an issue on a roof or something, and we don't have capital to take care of it, and now the property goes to crap and the tenants are leaving and everything's going out the door. How am I going to take care of your capital? And how am I going to take care of you if I can't take care of the property? If I can't take care of my resident? So that's how we do business. That's what we look for. And, you know, in today's market, we see, you know, a lot of people that, like you said, a lot of money in the market, a lot of money coming from outside the country. Multifamily. People are buying.
These days in particular. Yes.
I just came back from Atlanta. I was walking a property. I'm like, dude, this is not what you told me it was going to be. This is not what you said. Look at this. The roofs need this. And oh my God. And it's a dead end road on the worst part of town.
Yeah. I've seen those.
I could have bought the property because the price was ridiculous, like $45,000 a door.
Ooh, okay.
But first of all, I can't do anything with the property. I can't do anything to make it better. You know, it just wasn't the right fit.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go into something just for the sake of going into it.
If you don't have the repair, if you don't have the value add, if you don't have the clarity of the path, pick your words across your different systems, right? Clarity of path, whether it's vision, clarity of path, the value add, or the actual like right tool to implement for the job, pass on it.
Right.
Doesn't matter if it's cheap.
Right. I was with my capital raisers and we went to visit the property and we're touring the area and we looked at the property and we're walking. And at one point we all looked at each other and we're like, okay, are you trying to get yourself excited about the property? I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to get excited about it, but there's nothing to get excited about. And we both looked and we're like, we could rate, you know, we already have commitments for the equity. It's not a question of, can we do it? The question is, do we want to? Do we want to get our investors into a type of asset that
is potentially unsound for you guys as an investment group? Maybe somebody else knows what to do with it. Maybe somebody else has a different way of approaching it. But it's unwise for you guys as an investment group to take on an asset where you don't see the path where you can value add. That would be unsound to your investors and unsound to your company.
Right.
So you pass.
So we pass. And let me tell you, a lot of times, not a lot, but every time I walk into either a single family home that I want to flip or a multifamily property, you know, a lot of times people look at me like, dude, you're losing it. I'll walk into the property and I'll have my hands out like this.
Okay.
And I just walk around and I'm looking and I'm not talking to anybody and I'm just looking and I'm looking and I'm looking and I'm feeling the energy of the property, feeling the energy of the people, of the trees around me, of everything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, you know, you can't fight your gut.
No, don't fight your gut.
Your stomach has more nerve endings that attach to your brain. And we don't know, right? People don't know this, but our stomach and our brains are super connected with the amount of nerve endings and transmission and
serotonin. There's more serotonin used by the gut than there is used by the brain.
That's right. So if you're tuned into your gut, you're tuned into the vibes. And, you know, there've been many houses where the numbers looked great. Yeah, I can make $100,000. Not for me. Let somebody else do it. I don't know what it's going to be. What's going to happen? Let somebody else do it. And then you hear, oh, the foundation was that they had to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to fix the foundation, or this was no good, or they would whatever it was. So I do that. I walk, and I highly recommend for everybody who's listening, who's going to listen, to get in tune with your antenna, with your senses, and feel things, right? It's not a woohoo crazy, you know, crazy thing out there. It's alive, incredible. You know, it's really incredible. It'll keep you out of trouble if you're able to connect with it.
I'm going to tell you a story, if I may, real quickly.
Absolutely.
So I'm a real estate investment advisor. So I work with people on their real estate portfolio and the management of money and how to place their money in real estate. So there's this constant conversation, right? About, is this a good investment? Is this not a good investment? What's the value add? What can you bring to it? What do you feel about it? What does your gut say? And I'll do things on money. Like we'll do money, like, oh, I'm holding this money in reserve. And I go, that's fascinating. Do you know that you have the same amount of money in reserve so that you could pay off any one of your particular properties at any point in time? Do you know that you're protecting yourself this way? Are you aware of that? And so I will literally say, oh my God, you've just done this, this, and that. And numbers will line up in a nice, pretty little system. Like, I don't know numbers. And I'm like, really? Fascinating to me that you don't know numbers, because some part of you clearly knows numbers really well. because all of these, when I do the mathematical calculations, line up perfectly. So some part of you, whether you're conscious to it or not, is absolutely, we can call it saving your ass, or being intuitively aligned, right? Or is communicating with you to help you line up a very successful portfolio when you say you don't understand what you're doing.
Right.
So whatever that is that's been guiding you successfully, let's double down on that, because that is what will generate your success.
Absolutely.
That's my story.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. So we only have a couple minutes left. So I know it's hard to believe. I was enjoying listening to. So
I like our color schemes. We both have the blue.
The blue. It's the blue. That's what it is. It's just the blue. That's why we relate so well.
That's right. I like the nail colors as well.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I got my nails done recently. They're pretty over here. So let me talk to you about, I was going to ask you to tell me about a problem and a problem set. And I don't know if you have, like, in the next 5 minutes, can you tell me about a problem and what it took for you to solve that, and maybe how it helped you grow up or be a better investor?
Sure. Well, we just came out of 2020 where things were shut down. People didn't have to pay rent.
Yes.
I had a great property, and the property manager that was on site during the shutdown decided to put people into the property that weren't qualified to pay rent, just because she thought it would be better to put heads in beds.
Right.
And the property wasn't producing any income. And we had mortgages to pay, and we had all that. And it was very stressful. As you can see, my hair decided to turn gray on me during that time. And
I'm sure it's turning gray previous to that, but we'll rock it. You're rocking it just fine.
But, it was very stressful, not sleeping at night. And the fact was that, I didn't care. The worry wasn't me. If the property goes into foreclosure, will I have a foreclosure on my record? How will that look? I didn't care about that. My care was my investors.
Your investors. Yeah.
My care was like, how am I going to get their money?
That's what will keep us awake at night, is the investors. Oh shit, how am I going to cover this? Because if this goes south, I'm not just solving my problem, I'm solving all of their problems. Right. And the last thing I want to do is break that trust that I have with them. And how am I going to sort this out to keep that trust in place?
Exactly. So went up there, got rid of that property manager, brought in a new property manager, flew up there, spent many, many weeks during Thanksgiving and Christmas and the holidays and the cold weather. And, I went up there and, I was picking garbage up by myself. I was the guy picking the garbage, right?
Yes, I understand.
Boots, gloves, and just picking the garbage up. And then 5 minutes later, there's more garbage. And that was what I had to do. If I had to go, trash out a unit, I would trash out a unit. I did whatever I had to do to make sure that I could save the funds of my investors. And my goal in my head, and I put it out to the universe, was we have to do one of two things. Either we refinance because we were in a bridge loan and the bridge loan was coming up. So I said, I have to get the value up so that I can refi.
Oh, yes.
Or sell the property. I was running two lanes at the same time.
And either way, occupancy is your solution. Economic occupancy is your solution.
So, I kept getting turned down by lender after lender after lender. We were working on bringing up the, renovating the units and bringing in better tenants that could pay. I was paying, I took and spent tens of thousands of dollars of my own money into that property. Yeah. I didn't want to do a capital call.
Right. I understand.
Right.
Not that I've ever had, not that I've ever been a syndicator or that. I only do smaller projects, but you don't want to do a capital call. You don't. It
happens.
It happens, but
you don't want to do it.
You don't want to do it.
You don't want to do it.
There's a whole cascade of things that come out of a capital call that you don't want to do. You'd rather put yourself forward, your own effort, your own capital to make it straight and make it right before your investors feel like they're at risk.
Right.
Your job, absorb the risk, work it out. That's your job.
So one of my mastermind groups, I put the question out there and I said, what would you guys do if you had to, would you lose investors' money? When I say lose, meaning give back partial money right? Because of what happened, or would you make them whole out of your own pocket? Some says, well, it's an investment and they knew what they were getting into.
Sure.
Screw
Their
'em,
risk. They signed
their
the
risk.
paperwork. Yeah.
Some people say, oh, no, I would take out of my money and make them whole because they trusted me. It was my thing. And, I'm playing the devil's advocate. And I go, let me ask you, when you put money with a stockbroker, does the stockbroker give two about your money? No, they don't. So why would you? And we had that discussion.
Yeah.
I'm of the mind that if you're putting money with me, I will do whatever it takes to make sure that you get minimum your money back.
Right. Minimum your capital. Yeah.
So during that time, I was up there. My wife would come to visit me because I was up there for 2-3 weeks. So she'd come and spend the weekend with me, and then she'd come back, and, the property managers, and we were working hand in hand. And I was working with brokers, and I was, every day just doing the numbers over and over again to make sure that if we sold it at this price, all our vendors would get paid. That's another thing, right? You asked me what's, karma going around. I could have screwed all my vendors and gone, hey, sorry, there ain't no money. Sue me.
I think there. Yep.
Close the LLC, close the bank account.
Yeah.
Who are you going to come after, right?
Right.
That's not the way we want to do business, because your reputation is the only thing you have.
Yes, it is the only thing you have at the end of the day. If you want to keep playing this game, your reputation is the only thing you have.
And it takes years and years and years to build it up, and it takes 30 seconds to knock it down.
Yep. Yeah,
right?
It can.
So I went up there and I was talking to brokers. We fixed the property. We started working. I brought maintenance people from other assets in the area to help and to do this and whatnot. And thank God we sold the property.
Okay.
Paid all our vendors off. Obviously, I went back and I negotiated some discounts with them, but I got them paid off.
Good.
Right?
Yeah, negotiate in good faith.
Negotiate. Exactly. I said, look, I want to pay you. This is the situation. You could either tell me to go screw myself, and okay, but let's work together. And they got a majority of their money back. It's not that they were, that they had to close shop and be done. They got a majority of their money back. But negotiated with them, and paid off all of our debt. And now we're paying back all of our investors, and they're getting all of their money back.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was a lesson that, I'm from New York City, and we have a saying, trust but verify.
Yes. Or pray to Allah and tie up your camel.
Exactly.
Tie up your camel anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
So now in my business, as much as I want to be kind of hands off and delegate to people, I'm still on top of them like a hawk. And sometimes they say, hey man, why don't you relax? Why don't you don't tell me to relax. I'm the last person you should be telling to relax. If I'm relaxed, things aren't going so well. Right. And I love it. And I love doing the business because it, like we talked about, it does give me freedom to do what I want. Right. I woke up to,
you were jumping the financial freedom question. What does financial freedom give you? What does it mean? Tell me. Go ahead.
It gives me freedom to do what I want, when I want, with who I want, for as long as I want, without having to ask anyone. It gives me the financial freedom. To me, is not worrying about how I'm going to pay my electric bill. Financial freedom is, for me, the ability to tell my kids and my wife, okay, you guys are out of school? Great. We're going away for 3 months.
Let's go.
How can you go away for 3 months? Oh, I have my phone. I have my laptop. What else
As long as I've got some version of internet connection once or twice a week, I probably can keep this thing rolling.
Right. I remember when we first started traveling, when we moved here and we started traveling, we would end up in these mountains, beautiful places. But I remember we were in this one village in the mountains somewhere in Oregon or somewhere. And I was in the middle of the main street of the village, in the street. And I'm talking like this, trying to get a cell connection. At that point, I told my wife, I said, listen, I don't care where we go. I don't care where in the world we go. You have to make sure that I have internet connection.
Just somewhere in the
doesn't matter how, when, where. I have to have internet connection, because then I will be calm.
Yes.
I'll be calm.
I'll be
I'll be
calm.
relaxed. I'll be able
Yes.
to enjoy. You'll be able to enjoy. The kids will be able to enjoy. No one's going to enjoy if I'm closing a contract and I'm stressing because I can't sign the papers because I got no internet
On
connection.
DocuSign. Really simple from the phone. I have been in so many different places when I've closed escrow. I've been in Hawaii, I've been in Canada, I've been in Indianapolis, I've been in Tennessee, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. Just send it to me via DocuSign, and I'll be at an airport, I'll be at a cafe. It really doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
When I traveled for 3 months one time, like literally, it might have been longer than 3 months, but I literally just called my mailbox because at the time we're more connected. I called my mailbox and I said, hey, I'm going to be at this hotel in 2 days. Overnight me my mail. I had my checkbooks with me. I had my phone with me and a computer. I was good. Just overnight me my mail once a week. And I was totally on top of my entire business and investment portfolio at the time by just being able to manage that. And that
absolutely.
And so therefore that's what financial freedom means to you. Because it is this conversation is supposed to be about you as much as I like to jump in.
Yes, but that is, it's the ability for me to, I was in Atlanta touring a property yesterday. My flight back home was delayed 6 hours. I got in at 2:00 in the morning. I woke up at 11 today.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, it doesn't mean that I'm not in my office taking care of stuff, right? It doesn't mean that at 9:30 my phone buzzed and I with one eye I'm looking at my email and I'm like, okay, yeah, do that.
Fine. Yeah, I can go back to that. Exactly.
I go back to bed.
Right.
You can't do that when you're working a 9 to 5. You can't increase your wealth when you're working a 9 to 5. And I'm not taking that away from anybody, right? People have to go and they have to pay their rent, the mortgage, the bills, put their kids in school. You got to do what you got to do. But don't make that the reason why you're not going after your dreams.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm a coach and mentor too. And I help people get into multifamily and my goal is to teach people how to build a business that revolves around their lifestyle rather than changing your lifestyle to revolve around your job or your business. Right. Because I remember when I was in retail, we had a brick and mortar store. And you know what? Every day you wake up, you go to the store and you sit for 10 hours a day like this and you're praying that somebody would walk into your store and spend money. And you're spending all your money on marketing. And I can't go anywhere. I can only go on vacation maybe for a week, 10 days, and then I got to come back to this place. I can't take my store to Cancun, Mexico and work and make sales in Cancun, Mexico, right? I mean, today you have online stores and you can do that and whatnot. But the beauty of what we do is you do it once and it continues to feed you if you're doing it correctly, right? And like you said, we don't have to go out and buy 100 units or 200 units or 300 units. You don't need to do that, right? People get caught up in that glitter and that glam and say, hey, I want 1,000 units. Do you really want 1,000 units? Or do you want something that will come in every single month and pay your electric bill and pay your water bill and pay your mortgage and pay your car payments so that, you know what, man, I can focus on my dreams. What do I want to do? I want to go out and help people. I want to be a philanthropist. I want to go out and, go and go to some third world countries and feed people. I can do that because I've got my duplex, my triplex, my 10 unit, paying for my bills and paying for my kids and doing all that. Now I can do what my heart and soul wants me to do.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I so appreciate it. I appreciate that we crossed the trajectory all the way from the physical world to the spiritual world to satisfaction and being on purpose and all the spaces in between. If people want to get a hold of you, how do they do that? We know Cornerstone Investment Partners is your company, but how do they get a hold of you?
Sure. Well, my phone number, can I give out my phone number?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I give out my phone number all the time. Yeah.
Right. 561-212-7247.
Say it again.
561-212-7247. I'm on all social media platforms as the Traveling Investor, and that's my logo behind me. There's supposed to be 3 apartment complexes, but it's kind of cut off.
It's okay.
And on all social media platforms, from Facebook to LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, whatever.
And you have a podcast.
And I have the Traveling Investor Show, yes, which goes live every week on Facebook and YouTube. and then it gets uploaded as a podcast to all the different Spotify's and whatnot. And it's a live show, so people can ask questions live while we're having that discussion. And you can reach me. My email is Nizan, Nizan, at investwithcip.com. And if you want to know more about my coaching and mentoring, you
That's
can
what I
go
was going to say.
to
Yes.
www.traveling-investor.com. My goal is to make everyone a traveling investor.
I have to agree with that goal. I think that's a very good one. Thank you so much for listening to Christina Suter, a breakthrough radio show. I am so excited that you guys have tuned in this week. Of course, tune in next week for our next show. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Roku TV, iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, of course, and all the other podcast platforms. Thank you so much for finding your financial freedom.